Hey YouTube, how are you? This is Leslie, over 40 Fit and Fabulous, and boy, it's been a really long time since I've done a video on YouTube. So a lot's been going on in my life. Some of you are well aware of what's been going on. Things are a little tough in the family area, not my direct family, but outside of that. So I have been now kind of focusing on that and kind of just checking out of regular day-to-day life and YouTube and even really taking care of myself. So now it's really time for me to refocus my energy on myself, let the cards fall as they may in my life. And honestly, somebody has sent me a quote saying, what's going on in your life today probably won't really matter 5 years from now. And you know what, that's probably so true. And it's really time to not dwell on issues that's going on right now. All I can do is just really focus on myself, focus on the positive, and continue to give back to the community. So that is a really interesting topic today for me, is giving back to the community on a very interesting topic that I've been researching and actually have felt personally in my own life. So I really, really want to share this with you guys. I've done some research, both personally with my own soul and on the internet, and I feel what I'm about to share with you is really, really valid. And anybody who feels this way, I highly suggest that you go out and do your own research and talk to your doctor. So the topic is attention deficit disorder and obesity. So check this out. So as one of my children was starting to complain about perhaps that he's got ADD, I would say it was 2-3 years ago, I would really just poo-poo it and say, you know what, enough of this. I just really feel the medical community and the teachers are just trying to label overactive boys with a medical condition and just throw medication at them. And so we have excuses. So I was never a true believer in that whatsoever. But, as he got a little bit older and really started doing his own research, which I was really proud of him, I started doing research too. Took him to the doctor, and yes, he was classified as typical ADD, not ADHD. He is on medication, and I'm proud to say he's a straight A student now. So I have to go back on, what I said being, just a real poo-poo, and I have a little bit of guilt that I never addressed the situation beforehand. But one of the epiphanies for me was that as I was doing my research on ADD, I found out that I exhibit many, if not all, the symptoms also. So I went to the doctor. I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, very highly compensatable. So I've learned throughout my life to compensate the ADD and still become a very successful business person. Being a project manager, program manager, my life really is around lists. So that's really something that the people with ADD that's trying to compensate generally have to do. They have to do lists. They have to stay on task. So that's really been my whole life. So I've been very successful in my business life. Home life, has been chaotic. I think I've talked to you guys about, laundry just piling up and being uncontrollable. Sometimes hard to focus on getting my own personal business started. It seems like I've been studying for my personal training certification for years and just really never, took that step to get it done. So here's my whole philosophy on ADD and those people who specifically perhaps are emotional eaters. So I jotted down a couple of paragraphs that before this video that I wanted to share with you. And this is all, really right from the heart and based on my experience. So we all know that ADD is characterized by the inability to stay on task. So my thought on that for people who are specific stress eaters or emotional eaters, we all, if that's what you are, reach a kind of a stress or emotional threshold throughout the day. Some people perhaps only have this much of a threshold, or somebody maybe without attention deficit disorder or emotional eating problems have a stress threshold like this that, is perhaps 10, 12, 24 hours, or maybe they never reach that. And they're able to function throughout the day without having to revert to something else to help bring that stress level down. So somebody that has ADD and is an emotional eater, say has a stress level threshold of this. So they reach that, maybe they're at work for maybe an hour or just awake for an hour, and all of a sudden they feel that they can't concentrate anymore, and they turn and they reach for food. Okay? So that food generally is probably going to be something sweet or something fatty that impacts the pleasure centers of the brain. Once the pleasure centers of the brain is impacted and those endorphins go up, the dopamine goes up, your stress level goes down. So now you're able to get back on task, okay? So that may be a couple of cookies, could be half a gallon of ice cream, but it brings your stress level down for you now to be able to go back on task. So now you get back on task, and an hour later, you've reached that threshold, and now you've gone back to eating. Okay? And a lot of times, because this is stressful or emotional eating coupled with attention deficit disorder, you may not even realize the amount of calories that you're consuming throughout the day because you're constantly compensating for that stress. So you're almost doing it mindlessly. That's your way of coping to bring that stress level down for you to be able to get back on task and to be focused. Okay? So I truly, truly believe that those two things can go hand in hand. So I've been on very low dose of Adderall, which the generic is amphetamines, and that kind of freaked me out because it felt like I was back in high school taking speed. I'm supposed to take 3 pills a day. I only take 1 in the morning. And I have gotten comments from work like, "Oh my God, you're so focused, you're so driven." These are always positive comments that I've had in the past, but now I'm just so consistent. I'm so on task. I'm working. I have to tell you, sometimes now my challenge is I forget to eat. But the good side effect is that I have dry mouth, so I'm definitely getting all that I need to drink. But now my stress level threshold is so much higher, I'm not finding myself turning around and reaching for food to bring that stress level down. So the Adderall that I'm on now has given me that increased threshold, so now that I'm not going back and finding that I'm eating out of stress. So, folks, if you really think that could be you, I am certainly not a doctor. There's loads and loads of information on the internet that talks about attention deficit disorder symptoms. I highly suggest you guys take a look at those symptoms and see if that could potentially impact you or relate to you. A lot of those symptoms have to do with the inability to stay on task, procrastination. There's just so many different items, but you go through a checklist. I met with my doctor, she gave me a checklist, and pretty much I answered yes to everything. Think back really to your childhood too. One of the key things, if you can think about your report card when you were younger, teachers would write not working to fullest capacity, and I've noticed that in my son that has ADD. He could get, if on a topic that really interests him, he would get A's. For something that was a little bit more challenging, that had that stress factor in there, he could get an F. But if he was given a little bit more extra one-on-one attention and really forced to concentrate, we would see that F go up to an A. So it was very, very clear that he did have those symptoms. So now, like I said, now that he's on the medication, he's getting straight A's and everything. And if I think back to my report cards, that was a lot of the comments that I would get from teachers. Very bright, but not living up to their capacity. And again, I had grades that, A and F, very all over the board, really depending where my interests were. Not necessarily my knowledge level, but it was the interest. So the medication helps keep that interest level kind of high for, across the board. So if you think that could be you, please go do some research online, talk to your doctor. Again, ADD is not something that just pops up at any time of your life. It is something that you're born with. It's hereditary. So if you are having symptoms like this that just came into your life, probably it's not attention deficit disorder. It's probably some other stressors that's going on that's impacting your everyday life. But think about, when you were a child and growing up, a lot of times it comes up, preteen also, that's when it really starts to manifest itself. Sometimes if you have, what I've learned, a lower end attention deficit disorder, there are certain things in life and triggers and stressors that will now kind of bring you to that threshold where those symptoms are really going to start to manifest themselves. So again, if you think that could be you, please do your research. The medication really can be a life changer for you. So I'm wondering if, the medical society is going to really start looking at that. There is some bits and pieces out there on the internet that is talking about those two impacts, obesity and attention deficit disorder. So I'm wondering if that may be the next research for obesity, that people may have some underlying conditions that help lead them that way. So hopefully this will help somebody out there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my research and my personal experience. I'm just really, really curious what everybody's thinking. So I'm going to sign off for now. I promise to be back on. I really miss you guys, and I miss sharing my experiences with you and hearing your feedback. So for now, happy Sunday, and have a great week. Bye-bye.